Let's me and you do an inspection scenario, okay? Here are the details of the inspection scenario. During a pre-drywall inspection, the home inspector, that's you, you're examining a new home with a poured concrete foundation and an underfloor crawl space. Surface drainage. Here's the first step. The inspector checks the grading around the foundation. You observe the ground does not slope away from the foundation by 6 inches within the first 10 feet. Instead, there's a slight slope towards the foundation. That's not good. So the defect that was found was improper grading that can lead to water pooling near the foundation, potentially causing water intrusion and damage. And this is a reference to the International Residential Code, section R401.3. Report. Write a recommendation in the report to have a qualified contractor assess the grading and implement corrective measures to ensure proper drainage away from the foundation. Foundation anchorage. Here's your inspection step. Inspect the anchor bolts. What did you observe? Well, let's say that the anchor bolts are correctly spaced at 6 feet apart, but some bolts are embedded only 5 inches into the concrete. The defect that was found was insufficient embedment depth of anchor bolts that does not meet the minimum requirement of 7 inches, which can compromise the structural stability of the entire foundation. And that's a reference to the International Residential Code, section R403.1.6. You report a recommendation to have a qualified contractor evaluate the anchor bolts and make necessary corrections to comply with the code requirements. That's going to be difficult. Let's go to foundation drainage, waterproofing, and damp proofing. Here's the inspection step. You check for drainage systems around the foundation. Your observation is that there's no visible drainage tiles or gravel drains installed around the foundation. So the defect that you found was a lack of drainage systems, and that increases the risk of water intrusion and foundation damage, especially in areas with poor soil drainage. That's a reference to the International Residential Code, R405.1. What do you report? Well, you write a recommendation in the report to have a qualified contractor inspect further the foundation, and they may recommend installing an appropriate drainage system if needed. Underfloor spaces, you're going to check this. You're going to inspect the underfloor crawl space for vapor retarders. What do you observe? Well, in the crawl space, it's an unvented crawl space. There's no ventilation. And the ground surface is not covered with a vapor retarder. Defect. Without a vapor retarder, moisture can build up in the crawl space, leading to mold growth and wood rot. And that is reference to code R408.3. What do you report? Well, you write a recommendation in the report to have a qualified contractor further evaluate the crawl space and install a vapor retarder on the floor. Here's some additional checks. Here's the inspection step. You measure access openings for underfloor spaces. Well, you observe access openings through the perimeter wall. There's only one access opening, and it's measured 14 by 20 inches. The defect that was found? Well, the access opening size does not meet the minimum requirements of 16 by 24 inches, restricting access for inspection and maintenance. And that's a reference to the International Residential Code R408.1. In your report, you write a recommendation to have a qualified contractor assess further the access openings and make necessary adjustments. And that was a pre-drywall inspection scenario between me and you.